Hello, everyone. Hi from Florence. I'm Alexandra Korey, and with me today is Annette Joseph. Where are you connecting from?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Fantastic. So today it is my absolute pleasure to speak with Annette, who I have long admired on Instagram. She's Annette Joseph Style, and everything she does looks just fabulous, and I know why now. So Annette is a woman who has made styling, decorating, entertaining, the Italian lifestyle, and all around having fun her mission. This is my words, not hers, but I get this sensation. And she shares it with us through her social media, her books, and fabulous workshops in Tuscany where everything just looks perfect. And it has a book coming out at the end of the month, which is why we thought we'd have this chat today. But I've been plowing through the book all weekend, and I'll tell you more about it as we talk about it later. But it's kind of like having a slightly crazy best friend who lets you in on all the secrets of hunting for the perfect vacation home in Italy. So we'll get to that. But first, Annette, I wanted to ask you about your first experience with Italy, how this became your love and how it came to play an important role in your life.
Well, I think, first of all, my father was a painter. He was an oil painter. And so I used to help him, set up, since like the age of 5, I used to help him set up his beautiful still lifes. And he had a real love for Italy, Italian artists. And so I think I get sort of that artistic love of beauty and vision and visual things from him. So when I first went to Italy, I was just, bowled over by how beautiful Italy was. And I'm very sensitive to light. And even as a young child, I noticed that this was a very special place. So I think my very first real introduction to Italy as a thinking, feeling person, not a child, was when I was about 19. I went with a friend and we went all over Europe. My parents are Hungarian, so I used to spend summers in Hungary. And so I was very familiar with the train system and how to get around. And so it was really fun because we traveled all over and we wound up in Italy. And I just really fell in love with it. And it was like falling in love for the first time where, everything you saw was beautiful. Everything you ate was delicious. Every place you stayed was wonderful, and so it was just something that stuck with me. And I just had to keep going back. So that was really the beginning of my love affair with Italy.
Mm-hmm. It's Italy is like that sexy Fabio, because a lot of us have had this feeling about just instantly like, oh wow, it's just the best. So I think you fell into that trap.
Yeah, I think some people fall harder than others. So there's some people that want to go back for vacation over and over again. And then there's some crazy people like us that are like, oh, I have to live here. I have to be a part of this culture. And I fell really hard for it. And so it was something where I knew at some point in my life I was going to spend gobs of time in Italy. And lucky for me, I got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I get to do that hopefully soon again, but yes.
So you said your father was a painter, and that seems to have somehow connected to your future career. So you're a stylist and an author. Tell us what that really means in Isoto. What does it mean? What do you do?
Well, what I do is I work for companies, for magazines, for publishing companies, and I work as a stylist, a photo stylist or producer or art director. So I make things look pretty. And, it's always very hard to explain to people exactly what I do, but I'm on set. I acquire all the props that are needed. I do all the setups. So if you see a beautiful photograph in a magazine like Elle Decor, I'm the person that sort of edits everything for the camera and makes it look beautiful. And I teach this. So it's something that you can teach people. And I have just a great love for everything beautiful. And I've been lucky enough to be able to make this my job and make a living doing it, which I feel very fortunate to be able to do.
So how much of the way that you style things and this appreciation for beauty is influenced by your experience in Italy?
Well, I mean, obviously, I've spent so much time in Italy. So for me, of course, it has everything to do with how I look at the world now. I can't even remember when I looked at the world a different way. I mean, once I went to Italy and I saw, the thing about Italy is there's so much texture and there's so much beautiful coloring and the light is so beautiful and the combinations of color and the composition and everything is sort of naturally styled there, but with a little bit of naturalness to it and a little bit of imperfection. And that whole idea of styling with imperfection to me has become sort of a cornerstone of how I look at the world and how I look at the world of styling. So, things that are old, things that are new, put together, that aesthetic, that Italian aesthetic really is in my bloodstream now. So it's something that, I can't literally remember when I didn't look at the world this way, because I think I was so bowled over when I first went to Italy. It just like hit me like a lightning bolt.
Fantastic. So up on our screen is a comment. We're live, of course, and I'm encouraging everyone to comment, to say hello, let us know where you're from, and ask any questions you have for Annette. And up on the screen, I think, is one of the protagonists.
Yes.
Leonardo.
Abruzzi is here with us, and he is in the book, and he's actually, one of the main characters in my book, really. He was someone that was super kind, and he is super kind, and we're really good friends. And he is like a child, like my son. He's part of our family. And I also drank and partied with him a lot. So ciao, Leo. And I just love he and his wife, Elizabeth, and they're both in the book, and they reoccur in the book. And they've been really a steady force for me in Italy to be able to make my life a little bit, easier there. And so they're wonderful people. They're lovely. Hi, Leo.
So Italy is My Boyfriend is coming out later this month, and it's a memoir of your experiences buying and restoring property in Italy, which is just 2 consecutive summer homes, and yet it turns into 2 decades of house hunting. I can't count how many houses seen. You will tell us.
It's a lot of houses. A full disclosure, I looked for a house for 4.5 years. So my copy editor was like, okay, this is great that you remember and you're disclosing all these different houses and what they look like and where they were. But you can't slug through. It would have been a tome. It would have been like 500 pages. So we picked out sort of the best ones and the ones that were sort of, in play. But know that there were, with all the houses that we looked at, there were another 50 houses that I didn't write about.
Did you ever feel, so I was actually on House Hunters International, supposedly searching for a home in Italy. And I think this, you should have been on it, but it would have been like, you could be a whole season of House Hunters International.
Full disclosure, they did contact us, and they wanted to do a thing on the fortress where we live now. And, we went through the whole process, and we had our very last meeting with the producer, and it was so daunting doing the renovation, honestly, that at the end I was really pretty exhausted. And, so our very last meeting with the producer was like a Skype meeting, and it was a Friday night, and Frank and I went to dinner. We went and got a burger because, like I said, we wanted a burger and a beer. We were so exhausted. And we looked at each other, and I said, what do you think? And he goes, I don't know if I want to do this. And I said, I don't know if I want to do it either. So we didn't do it. But so you have to just come look at it for yourself and not see it on TV.
All right. Well, and it's in Elle magazine. It is.
It's in this month's May issue. It's the Italy issue of Elle Decor magazine. Yes.
So I guess we're kind of actually getting a little ahead of ourselves, because we're talking about now the fortress, which is the final destination of your house hunt.
Right.
But in terms of the book, can you show us the book? I hear you only have a few copies.
This is what it looks like. There are actually photos in it too, which is kind of fun. So you get to see things. There's that Leo is over here. It's hard to see. Leo's right there. He is in the book. And yeah, it looks like this. And it's me and Vivi in my white Cinquecento, and the fortress is right back there. Everything's backwards, but I think it's a funny read. You read it, Alexandra, so.
I thought it was hilarious. So along the way, you meet these incredible people. You host a ton of guests. Some of those guests are terrible. Like I said to you, I would be afraid to be your guest because then you tell it all.
Honestly, 95, maybe 98% of our guests are a delight. I mean, it's a very small percentage, but it wouldn't be as fun of a book if I was writing about how fabulous people were. Most people are very well behaved, but there were some people that are pretty badly behaved, and I don't have a problem calling them out. I'm a mom and I have grown-up children, and I hope that they behave very well when they're invited to someone's home in Italy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then tell me about the running analogy of love, of dating, which ties into your book's title, and your husband, who spends less time than you do in Italy, who plays a supporting role in the book.
He does. Well, if you read the dedication, which, by the way, my husband wrote the dedication, and the dedication is to my husband, Frank, and to my boyfriend, Italy, not necessarily in that order. So he actually wrote that, my husband. So he understands that he might be either numero uno or numero due. But he's very understanding. I mean, part of the reason I wrote this book is because everybody, no matter where I went, if I went on speaking engagements or, out at a restaurant with someone or having a dinner party at home, they would always say, "Why Italy? Why Italy?" And it really, the only thing I can attribute it to is that a relationship with like a bad boyfriend and a good boyfriend. You're in love with this boyfriend and he's like sexy and passionate and beautiful, but yet there's some things about him that aren't that great. And that's sort of a boyfriend. And so I used to just jokingly say to people, "Well, Italy is my boyfriend." And they used to get that. They were like, "Oh yeah, okay, I get that now." So that was really the reason. And way before the book, I used to say, "Oh, Italy is my boyfriend," and my husband was perfectly okay. We've been married a million years, so he's perfectly okay with it. He knows he's numero uno, he knows deep down he is.
That's good. That's good. So in the end, this is a spoiler, but I guess most people know from Annette's Instagram that in the end you buy a fortress, 12th century.
We do indeed.
Which is kind of crazy. How did you find it? How huge of a job has it been to restore this ruin into the place that it is now?
It was a big job to find. In Italy, they say the house finds you, and that's in the book. I do say that in the book, and it is the truth. It was long and arduous to find this house, and it was worth it, but it was a lot. A lot of disappointments. I always tell people that I really learned patience in Italy. I thought I was patient before, and then when I lived in Italy, I thought I was very patient, but then looking for this house and buying and purchasing a property like this, I really learned patience. Italy taught me patience. And as far as renovating goes, I have I worked in store planning before I was a stylist. I was a commercial designer. And so I had a real understanding of doing renovations. I worked with Gwyneth Paltrow, and I had done a project with her 10 years ago. And so I understand doing like daunting projects that, take a lot of, not to say that her project was actually daunting for a completely different reason because it was, done in 10 days. But this was something that I trained for, I feel like, and I had a real vision of what it should look like. And so even though it was a lot, I am a person that likes to juggle a lot of things. And so for me, it was like the ultimate, like sort of brain puzzle teaser thing. So I actually enjoyed it. I mean, I like ripping things apart and putting them back together again. And, I sort of live for that. So I suggest that if people want to do something like this, that they either have a background in this, which is super helpful, or know someone in Italy that they trust, that is got the same aesthetic as them, because that's very important. So yeah, it's a daunting but loving thing, you know.
So in fact, one of the recurring themes in your book is knowing the right person, or a person who knows a person who can help you, and also knowing about legislations, there's a comment here that Helen had just put up about the forthcoming Italian legislation that should encourage home renovations. And indeed, in general, there's been tax breaks for Italians already for quite some time. So what's the trick, I guess, to getting to be in the know and finding out all the things that you need to find out?
Well, I think, I really do outlet. Oh my God, Monica's here. Hi, Monica. She's like a
Monica.
the book. China.
It's this book. It's like, it's real. It's all coming together.
My real friends. I mean, this is, this is not a made up book. This is for real. Anyway, I mean, Monica, yeah, she's the best. You read about her in the book. I mean, she's amazing. Anyway, I think that I write about it in detail in my book about how to go about renovating. In other words, all the moving parts that you need to understand how things work in Italy. And once you have an understanding of that, then it's very easy to renovate things. Having the right architect work with you is very important. Luck plays a role in this, believe it or not. So, proceeding in Italy with renovation, you should take your time. That's why I say that it needs to be something that you love to do, because it is so daunting that if you didn't like doing it, then you would have a real problem, because you would be upset most of the time. And I regard challenges as a plus. I know that sounds crazy. That's why I'm crazy. And I also don't take no for an answer. So I always try to figure out the best route. And I don't get frustrated with people. I really don't. I get frustrated when people are unkind. I get frustrated when people are not nice. But otherwise, I don't. I mean, there's always a solution to everything, is the way I feel about it.
I'm just, I'm looking. The chatter is hilarious on this. We've got.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I am not participating in that, but there's Leo saying that they really exist. Yeah, they really do. I mean, everything I wrote was absolutely like verbatim the truth. So. All the good and all the bad, Leo. Of course, Leo doesn't have any bad stories.
No.
Well, he has some bad stories, but I didn't include, those stories.
Yeah. So,
well, by that I mean going to the bars and having a few too many drinks.
You mentioned one of those, but we won't tell that story.
Okay.
Here. But when did you realize it was all a book, and how did you put it together?
It's so funny because once I finished The Fortress, I realized that I had a lot of information to share with people. And so many people want to, buy a house, live my life, which, is kind of always pretty funny to me because, nothing is perfect in life. But they were so interested and they were so engaged, on Instagram, on Facebook, people that would, I would meet at parties, whatever. If I do talks, I'd have a million questions. So I thought, just put it in a book. And I had a book. I mean, I literally had a beginning, a middle, and an end. I had an arc to a book. And I've been writing for many years. And I enjoy writing. That's another thing I love to do. It's probably part of my organizational brain that I like to organize words and chapters and paragraphs and all that. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing the book. I thought it was a blast. And I wildly remembered every little tiny thing. Oh, yes, I just remembered that party. Yeah. Leo, there's one, funny story about you.
So as you spend more and more time searching for your home and then developing your workshops there, your career actually morphs, you say, from doing less styling for magazines in the States and more teaching and hosting workshops because you like to mentor people. And I think this also comes naturally from your love of hosting guests, which you talk a lot about. So I have a video here. If Jane, who I'm going to thank in the back end, my colleague brings up very, very quick. I've got it. We're going to play a little bit of this video, and you feel free to just kind of talk over and tell us what people are doing.
Well, this is, it's a student lounge, and then this is our commercial kitchen, and this is Chef Philip, who's our chef at La Fortesa Workshops. And he does all of our cooking, and he feeds everybody, but he also teaches cooking lessons. He and I do Instagram cooking lessons live now that we can't get over there, but we'll go over there. I'm working on the La Fortesa cookbook right now. And so everything that we cook in our kitchen there will be in a cookbook. This is actually, that was James Beard award-winning chef Rebecca Wilkham. She just was up for a nomination, and I believe she's been nominated before. She's amazing. She came to just cook with us. We have chefs come from all over the world to cook with us. We have a kitchen garden. And in the background now we're building a pool. So this was shot before the pool was there. The pool is going in. But we eat everything out of the garden. We cook, all of our flowers are from our flower garden and from foraging. And, obviously we love to eat. We love to cook. We love to share with all of our students. We have small groups, 6 to 8 people, that's it. And we have beautiful accommodations on the fortress, on the compound. It's 27 acres, and we have 7 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms, a main house, which is where I stay with my dog, Vivi, who is also in the book. And we have a good time. We dance. We have fun. This was shot by our team photographer on here. I think she's here as well. And, we have this amazing team of people that are very passionate about La Fortesa and our workshops. And it has just been a pleasure. A lot of women of a certain age, which I am, I have grown children, have been doing a career for a while and want to move into different parts of their creativity. And so I am one of those people, and I sort of looked at my profession and kind of tried to figure out where it was going. And then I said, you know what? I really like this other part of what I do, where I write and I style cookbooks. And so about 10 years ago, I decided to write Picture Perfect Parties, which was my first book. It's a styling book on entertaining. And I happen to have it right here.
That's great, because actually the Tuscan Times was just asking us, tell us about your cookbook, Annette. Your
so I wrote this cookbook, and it came out about 6 years ago. And I have a little marker because I wanted to show you. So it's a cookbook, but it's also a styling book. So it gives you lists of, what you should have in your party pantry. And then it is sectioned off, and it gives you menus, complete menus, and decor ideas. So I've had so many people do, complete menus, complete parties, and send me photos. It's really, really fun. And there's some really great recipes. They're not hard. They're easy, but they're impress your guests kind of recipes. And so there was a need for that, and that was done by Rizzoli. Rizzoli is also doing my La Fortesa cookbook as well, which we'll shoot in Italy, and we're very excited about. And then before I left the Italian Riviera, I wrote this book, and I photographed it as well. And when this book was photographed by my girlfriend, who's Canadian. I know you're Canadian, Alexandra. Mm-hmm. Deborah Whitlaw Llewellyn, who's a wonderful food photographer. And then this book I photographed, Deborah helped me a little bit. There are a couple of her photos in here. But it's basically the guide to the Italian Riviera. And here's a picture of Elizabeth. There's Elizabeth right there. That's Leo's wife. She was in this book because we drank a lot on the Italian Riviera. So it's a really fun little book. It's got cocktails and nibbles because, as you know, in Italy, we don't drink unless we're eating. And so I put together little aperitivos in the book that you can just put together. So some nibbles and some fun cocktails. And it's broken down, so it's sort of a travel log as well. So it's broken down by cities, starting in Bordighera and going all the way to Porto Venere. So it goes all the way around. There's one little drop off at the end because we go to Milan for a minute because there's this interesting sort of fight in Italy as to where aperitivo really started. Was it in Turin? Was it in Milan? And so I sort of picked Milan, and I love going drinking there. It's like a great city to drink in. So you know, and the thing about Italians that's really cool actually is they actually don't drink to get drunk. You know, so when they compare aperitivo to happy hour, that's really not what it's about. It's really more about socializing with your friends and having a little, you know, sip and a little nibble. And so it's culturally very different than happy hour, because I got asked that a lot when this book came out 2 years ago. What's the difference? And there's culturally, there's definitely a difference in drinking in Italy, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, indeed, you do definitely have a foot in two cultures, because you don't spend all your time over here in Italy. You still have your American side, and then you have also a really deep understanding of Italian culture. And I was thinking about, as I was reading, you got a lot of spot on observations about Italians and human interactions, friendship with them. And then, you know, we have to try not to generalize, because we as writers try not to generalize about the culture that welcomes us, but then
for sure,
totally true. And sometimes
it's a very complicated thing, you know. I mean, when you live somewhere for a while, I spent a lot of time observing and going to dinner parties where, you know, I was the foreigner. So when you're a foreigner, you can really kind of hone in on things. So I do not like to generalize. I really don't. You know, I'm Hungarian and Jewish, so I'm not one of those people that likes to throw everybody in a bucket. But there are certain things about Americans that are true. I mean, you know, they love baseball and hot dogs and beer. I mean, that's not like insulting. And in Italy, it's the same thing. There are just some things that culturally that are very different than American. I write about those in the book as well. And, you know, I try to do it in a loving manner, because obviously I'm in love with the country and the people and the culture and the food. So, you know, I mean, I just, you know, if anything, it's done some of it in humor as well.
Which, of course, part of that is also finding friends, and eventually you do find your crew, and they're definitely your crew, because they're all here watching. And then there's a few characters like Carlo, who tries to goad you into, I don't know, getting upset at the dinner tables. He likes to talk about politics, religion, and racism, which for us North Americans is not really a table time topic. So as the perfect hostess, when entertaining an intercultural crew, Italians and Americans, or Italians and North Americans, or whatever we are, what topics are safe?
Well, you know, I think as a hostess, I always say this. I think that your responsibility is to make sure that everybody's having a nice time and no one's feeling uncomfortable. I'm kind of giggling because Andrea showed up here, who is William Abramowitz's wife, who is a location scout. So we're all in the same business. And Bill actually shot our house for El Decor. And they are a very cool couple and very well traveled, and lots of fun, and we had a blast with them. But they're, you know, I think that, you know, in the sense of people that are sort of very social, they sort of understand the forays, I think, of what is, you know, not a good topic at a dinner table. But having said that, you know, in America, we have no problem talking about business, let's say, at the dinner table. So it's very different, both countries. And I can only speak for, you know, Italy, where I've been for over 16 years now, probably 17 years. Carlo, did you see the thumbs down?
Does that mean Carlo is no more?
No, they're not together anymore.
I'm like a bit of a jerk.
I love it. Before I changed boyfriend, yeah, she's so cute. So, but I think it's, you know, in America, it's fine. You know, I tell people, listen, if you invite a bunch of people for dinner, you know, your job is sort of to seat people together, maybe that don't know each other, but have something in common. So let's say, you know, my friend who's a builder comes, and then my friend who's an interior designer comes. I probably sit them next to each other. Or people, and you know what, they wind up actually not talking about their profession. They wind up talking about traveling or cooking or whatever. But it is your job to sort of coordinate all these people, especially if they don't know each other. I always like to throw one person in that doesn't know the rest of the group because it makes it much more interesting, because if you dine with the same people over and over again, sometimes it gets boring. Now, having said that, Italians are very different. They actually like to dine with the same people over and over again. And they actually don't like to talk about work. They'll talk about anything else. And then there's a subset for me, because I moved to the countryside. So for me, they're talking about, you know, crops and vineyards and bugs and blights and, you know, drought and cinghiale, which are boars, and, you know, animals. And so, you know, the subjects are endless when you live in the countryside. So it's very depending on where you live. It depends. But in Italy, for the most part, it's family and friends. And in America, we're much more about inviting people maybe that are, you know, not as connected. And it is our job as hostesses to kind of steer people away from controversial subjects. So we don't talk about religion, and we don't talk about racism in America. We don't talk about politics at the dinner table. But in Italy, they'll talk about these things at the dinner table, and that's just fine and dandy. So that was an adjustment for me when, you know, Carlo wanted to talk about what if it was racist where I lived, which I thought was such a, you know, we're having such a nice time. And then he throws that in there, and I just sort of didn't really answer.
So when in doubt, talk about the food.
Always talk about the food, talk about the weather, talk about how much you like, you know, where'd you get that shirt? I mean, just change the subject.
The decor, if you create a beautiful setting, of course.
Of course, yes. Or worst case scenario, excuse yourself and go help the hostess. Just say, oh, you know what? I'm going to go help Monica right now. I'm going to go help her bring in the dishes.
So, indeed, if anyone has any questions for Annette, we've got a sign up here to pop them in the comments rather, as we're responding, and happy to interact with you wherever you are. Meanwhile, I was going to pass on to the other recurring theme, of course, which is your other book, The Aperitivo. I would say you have embraced an Italian drink hour like a pro. So it's before noon. Good job, Annette. So it's before noon in Atlanta, but I've asked you to share a cocktail recipe. Now is the time where you pick up your computer and move over.
All right, we're going to move. All right, well, I hopefully do this without falling over, but hi, guys. Okay, so I'm going to take you around the house really quick. We're going to go into the kitchen, and this is my kitchen. And I love my kitchen. My kitchen is great. And I'm going to, so aperitivo, that is an Aperol Spritz.
Fantastic.
You know, I love an Aperol Spritz, a good old Aperol Spritz. Let me aim this down just a little bit more so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I like to use a wine glass.
Now we can't see your head.
I know. It's very hard. Just, yeah, it was funny. We're doing this pasta demo with Philip, and Philip moved his camera so that all you could see was his, like he was doing this and he had like a belly, but he doesn't have much of a belly, but you know, all you could see was belly. And one of the people, I think it was his sister-in-law or something, said, hey, all we see is belly. So we had to adjust everything. So an Aperol Spritz is super easy because this is all you have to think about. 3, 2, 1. That's it. See, it's super simple. So you start with the Prosecco, which I have right here. Oh my gosh. Having a problem.
I didn't drink.
I've not been drinking. All right. Let's start this again. All right. So here's a Prosecco. And so you put a good bit of Prosecco. People always don't put enough Prosecco in. And then you put in, well, I guess it would help if I open this. You think I've been drinking. And then you put in the Aperol. And then you just put in a splash of soda. It's super easy to do. I don't even bother to stir it because I actually take an orange and I do this. And this kind of stirs it up. And that's your drink. Chin chin. That's delicious. Okay. So I'm going to move us back.
Well, Chin Chin, I wish I had one. Elaine Ruffalo says that looks great.
It's
Thanks,
so
Elaine.
easy, Elaine. Let me tell you. I mean, this is the easiest drink to make for everybody.
It's definitely a drink that
And it looks like how pretty it looks. It looks so pretty, right?
lovely. The color totally pops. I can see why you like that particular spritz. It's actually a very photogenic drink.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that drink transport us to?
Well, for me, this is definitely got to be Portofino. You know, people in America confuse Portofino with Positano. Did you know that?
Very different.
Yeah, they're very, very different. And Portofino is like, to me, just this very, I believe this is in the Portofino chapter of my book, Cocktail Italiano. Sorry, but you know, what the heck? They're so good. It's kind of like orange juicy.
Well, you're not alone. You're in great company. So
yeah, I know it's aperitivo time there. So, but Portofino is a place that I've spent a lot of time. I've taken a lot of our guests to Portofino, and it's very tiny. It's a tiny little place. We stayed in Santa Margherita for a while, so we know it well. And it's one of those places that's super chic, but as only the Italians can do. It's very friendly. So it's always interesting to me that, you know, sometimes in the United States, if you go someplace that's very shishy and chic, my girlfriend Lisa's like, way to rock the quarantine. Yeah, Lisa. So Lisa's Italian, actually. But Italians are very good at making things very like friendly, if that makes sense. So you can go someplace extremely chic, and it's just, you feel at home there. You feel great.
Which is lovely. There's a fantastic conclusion, I think, to our talk. Though we do have a few questions from the public. So Lisa is asking, sorry, not Lisa, Andrea is asking if you can repeat the 3, 2, 1 directions. I got to say I was a little unclear on that as well.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So it's 3 parts of Prosecco, 2 parts of Aperol, which is a bitter, and then just 1 part of the club soda or sparkling water. So it's 3 parts to 2 parts to 1 part. So 3 ounces, 2 ounces, 1 ounce.
There you go. And we are going to publish this recipe on the Florentine. Probably tomorrow we'll be out with an article with a bit of review of today's chat and links also to buy all of Annette's books. So I highly recommend you do, because they're good fun to read. As you have such a special voice, and it totally shines through on your pages. So it's
thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I will say I had a very good time writing the book. I'm very, very pleased with the book. My publisher, the copy editor I had was actually lived in Italy, so that was so helpful. And she would write these funny little notes to me saying, "Oh my God, the autogrill! I love the autogrill." I hoped my book was as enthusiastic and as realistic as I am about Italy. And that's sort of, you know, I'm a realist. I tell it like it is. I'm from Wisconsin originally, so I'm a Midwesterner, and I'm a very real person. So, but yeah, I think it's funny. I think it definitely has my sense of humor. And all the characters are real. Monica was on here with us, and Monica is the most fascinating person that I've met in my lifetime. You know, you have like 10 fascinating people probably that you meet in your lifetime. She's definitely one of the most fascinating people in the sense of how talented she is and how she is just herself. And I just love people like that, where they could be, you know, wacky and a pain in the butt sometimes, but they're just themselves. And they're just so delightful.
Well, your enthusiasm for Italy comes through, absolutely. And it is that kind of love that so many of us experience. So I think for all Italy lovers, we all find something that we can relate to in Italy. As my boyfriend and I are in your congiunto, because at the moment boyfriend, and there's all sorts of things around words.
Yeah.
and I also hope that I can get my hands on your entertaining book, because it's very entertaining. I would love to learn to do that and to style things.
Well, I mean, for Italy, if you can order these things from England, they have them on Amazon in England. So, and if you can't, obviously, Alexandra, I'll have a stack for you when you come visit me at La Forteza. I'm really hoping that you come and visit, and it would just be so much fun for you to actually see everything in person. And maybe you can come up when we're shooting the cookbook, because we'll be a very small group, and hopefully that will happen sooner than later.
Well, it sounds super fun, and I hope you do get back to your beloved Italy very soon. And in the meantime, oh boy, we have a great question. I was just wrapping up when Sheila asked where the best place is to find a boyfriend in Italy.
Well, I think Alexandra would be a better person to answer.
I only found one, and I married him.
Right, a real boyfriend. I mean, if you're asking where the best place to live in Italy would be, I mean, that there's so many fantastic places that I don't even think I could pick. I mean, I personally, I always send people to the Italian Riviera, Sheila. I mean, I think if you go to the Italian Riviera and you get yourself a chair out on a great beach, you never know who you will find.
And a spritz. Have a seat.
Well, of course, yes. Well, yes. But Italian men are, I have to say, the Italian men are very charming, I think would be the right word. They're charming.
And we'll leave it at that. Absolutely. Andrea's also asking if we can recommend any local bookshops to order from. We assume that is Florence locally. I don't know if it's going to be distributed in Italy.
Mm-mm. Right now, they're just looking into overseas rights. I think that Monica is she will probably have it in her store, but that's in Alassio and in Saint-Tropez. So if you go to Saint-Tropez, she'll have it. She has a store in Saint-Tropez, and she has a store in Alassio, which is where I was for 12 years. But Amazon, England or Germany usually have all my books, because all my friends have ordered overseas from.
Okay, so actually she's asking about Atlanta. There you go. So maybe the two of you can get in touch on Facebook and make sure she gets copies of your book. But we will be publishing. We've already got the link up on the screen, and also at the top of this video, if you're looking on Facebook, you can certainly find links to get Annette's books on Amazon, which right now means you don't have to leave the house to get them. And I think that's it for today. So thank you so much for being on our show, and from also from the rest of the Florentine team. And I also encourage everyone watching to tune in for the next TF Together. We have a great lineup coming up. I'm not going to give it away just yet, but there's a couple of really exciting speakers planned for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Tune in, and Annette join us as well, because we want to keep a little Italy in your heart and keep that relationship with your boyfriend going.
Oh yes, definitely. Everything Italian. I'm on the phone, WhatsApping thank God for the internet, and I can see all my friends and talk to all my friends. And we have aperitivo every Saturday with my Italian girlfriends. And yeah, thank God for the internet. Seriously. I'm so sad. I'm less sad.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here, and ciao, ciao.
Andrea, ciao. Ciao, ci vediamo. A presto. Speriamo.
Absolutely. Ciao.
Ciao.